What time is it? It's time for another Every Other Wednesday.
Happy New Year!
Meeting in progress. So,
Meeting in progress. Happy New Year, everybody.
speaking of that, Jeff, I posted this yesterday on Facebook, how from a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, Larry Davis, the cantankerous Larry Davis, said you can't say Happy New Year after January 7th. That's the deadline.
I think it's the first time you see somebody.
That's how I see it.
Until April.
Fritz is telling us happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Fritz.
Thank you.
We have a question. You're going to be so shocked that everyone's going to be so shocked at this question. In the chat box, if you made a New Year's resolution, put your New Year's resolution. We want to make you accountable. Put your New Year's resolution in the chat box. Do you guys make any?
If you have any. I always pretend to.
I used to be much more hardcore about it. I'd actually write it down and sit down and do all that stuff. And then over the years, no, not so much. It's more generic, like I'll kind of get to this. I want more emphasis on getting in better shape, saving more money, spending more time with the family. You know,
I'm with Brian.
I stop making resolutions. I tend to write goals. I always do that. I have a good friend, actually, his ritual, New Year's Eve, he gets a drink of Grand Marnier, sits in front of the fire, and he plans his whole year, and he writes down goals in all these different categories: health, travel, work.
That's more exciting than my New Year's Eve was.
Yeah, mine too.
I literally used to do that. Actually, I used to do it on New Year's Day, not New Year's Eve, but I would write them down in different areas and all that kind of stuff, and broke down life. And but
yay! Well, not too many people have goals, or
I guess not.
Telling us a New Year's resolution,
or they're just ignoring us. Also, put down we want to be a little more health conscious this year. So if you've got any allergies, we should be aware of. Please put those in the chat box.
Oh no! Look at Carol's comment.
I thought so with everybody out in the West Coast.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's just awful. But you're okay, Carol.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Good. There.
Yeah. Don't wait till last minute to get it done. Slogan: Strive in 25. Okay,
I like that.
That's because Eddie is 25. Like
at my age, I just go for alive in 25.
Stay alive in 25.
Yes, Carol. It's good. Carol, it's good to see all of you as well. Yes.
Yes, it's awesome to see all of you. As people continue to stream in, why don't we get this plane off the runway? Shall we?
That's good.
Off the ground. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to all our esteemed, brilliant guests.
Afternoon.
Look forward to hearing from throughout our show. It is January 8th, 2025.
I'm so proud of you, Mike. I'm so proud of you
to get the year right.
25 right. How many times did you have to erase it to get it right?
Oh, like
actually,
4 times.
It looks like 202S. Your 5 looks suspicious.
202S. Yeah, it's a 5, Sanjay. I wrote this on Facebook just a few minutes ago that I'm kind of nostalgic for those days of writing the wrong year on our checks, right? We don't do checks anymore. I miss that. I miss the screwing up of the checks. Anyways, welcome, everyone. My name is Michael Kerr. I am coming to you from Canmore, Alberta, as where I usually am, in the beautiful Canadian Rockies. I speak on workplace culture. My last book is Small Moments, Big Outcomes, all about culture leadership. Today is, in case you're wondering, because I know you are, it is official Career Coach Day, World Typing Day, Argyle Day, Bubble Bath Day, Earth Rotation Day. So let's take a moment to thank the Earth for keeping spinning. English Toffee Day, Show and Tell Day at work, and my favorite, Snuggle a Chicken Day.
Well, for Sanjay, it's always Bubble Bath Day.
It's always bubble, for sure. Speaking of Sanjay, introduce yourself, please.
I will introduce myself, but first I have to make a smart-ass remark. I'm trying something new in the new year. You said you're calling from the Canadian Rockies. Now, hypothetically, if Canadian became American, would they become the American Rockies? Let's not.
They would not.
We have those already.
Okay. Hello, my name is Sanjay Knapp. I am based in Ontario, in Oakville, Ontario. I am a speaker and author focusing on leadership and performance. And I get together with these yahoos every other Wednesday whenever we're all around, and we talk about culture issues and shoot the shit and make fun of each other and hopefully share some war stories. And Happy New Year, everyone. Glad you came back. tell your friends, and I'll pass it over to you, Richard.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm Richard Haddon, and I'm an author and speaker, and I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, where I live. Today is what we call a CFF day, which stands for Cold for Florida. So we started off in the morning a little bit below freezing. Yes, it does happen here occasionally, but it's nothing like most of the rest of the U.S. and any of Canada, where you're super, super cold for the most part. And gosh, what do? I write and speak about the workplace and the workforce and all the changes that have happened over the last few years. Great to see all of you. Glad to be back. Jeff.
And last but not least,
yeah.
That's okay.
Jeff.
By the way,
Jeff.
Rob said no Canada, Greenland, or canal jokes. But are you taking a cruise on the Gulf of America next year?
Watch it.
Yeah, well, it's just a rumor that I heard. Anyway, my name is Jeff Tobe. I do live in very cold Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I'm going to be in Florida tomorrow night for a long weekend. What do I do? Richard, what do I do? I speak on customer experience and communication leadership. I do want to mention just a self-promoting advertisement.
No, we'd never do that.
I'm just finishing up a new online course on communication skills with 53 videos in it. I'm very excited about it. I'll tell you more as the year progresses.
One for every week of a very long year.
Exactly. Mike, you're muted. Mike, I think you're muted. Hello,
I
Mike.
told him his mic was too loud, and now he's got it where it can't be heard at all.
Not at
No,
all.
we can't hear you.
We see your lips moving. And I got to tell you, this has already been the highlight of the episode for me.
All right, should we go on without Mike?
No, and this is really bad because Mike was supposed to be leading the whole session.
You know, ironically, Mike is without a mic.
Yeah, that's all right, Mike. Just smile and look pretty.
I'm going to guess, Michael, that somehow Zoom has changed your default microphone to maybe your camera or to something else.
How is this?
That's better.
Thank you.
That's better.
My apologies, everyone. I will resolve to be better in the future. See what
that could be a resolution.
I know it could be. I love what Shannon wrote too. I don't make resolutions. I look at what I can be grateful for in the new year.
Nice.
That's an awesome thing to do.
And Jeremy told you to go back to mute.
Funny.
Who is Jeremy?
You know what? He's just
okay.
The rest of our sentiments. So
oh Lord. This is worse than hurting cats. Like, this is worse than hurting ADHD cats. So everyone, good morning. Now, it may not be too big of a surprise that our topic today is that perennial topic of just how the heck do we keep our resolutions at work. In a workplace context, it is a good time of year to come up for air, to hit the reset button, to look at the year ahead, to reflect on the past year, and think about some changes that you want to make for this year. So we would love to hear, as we go through this morning, some of the big goals, big changes you think you need to make in your workplace. And here's a question I'll pose right out of the gate. If there was just one thing you could change in your workplace that you think would have the biggest impact on your happiness at work, on your productivity, on your effectiveness as a workplace, as a business, what would that one change be? But the tricky part, of course, when we talk about change and resolutions is how do you keep those suckers? There are about 1,747,000 articles on how to keep New Year's resolutions and how to make goals and habits stick. So that's what we want to talk about. Give you some ideas, get some ideas from you on how do you turn the best of intentions into regular habits? How do you make sure these suckers actually stick?
And if I can jump in and say that, although we're timing this around New Year's, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have
it could be any time, couldn't it?
Really, any sort of implementation of change or any sort of new goal at trying to implement as an organization, or, again, even if it applies personally, we can, the same ideas, concepts, and procedures would apply as well.
Yeah, I'd be curious as well, because this is all about culture. If you let us know if you actually set goals as a department, as a company, or you just kind of left on your own to set your own business goals. I'd be curious. I think the most successful organizations that I've worked with, and I'm sure you guys will agree, set them at every level. So I'm still working with that large organization here in Pittsburgh of 8,000 people. There are executive goals, there are, department goals. So I'd be interested to find out how you do that as well. Let me ask you a question, guys. So if goals are set by our superiors, are they really goals? We don't have a choice in achieving them, is what I'm saying, right? And so I'm curious on how you feel about that, because I don't call them goals, I call them edicts. It's like, just do it.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, it could be a change in a key performance indicator. To me, the idea of a goal, there's kind of the implication it's a goal that we want to hit, but we don't have to hit, and it's more like there's that self-satisfaction if we do. But I think what you're talking about, you call it an edict. It could just be to say, no, here is the new standard. Here's the new key performance indicator. It used to be that you had to be at this level. Now this is the new level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny, Jeff.
To me, a goal is something that I am more kind of in control of, and whether or not I hit that goal, I don't know that others can set goals for me in this context. That's just me.
Yeah, the word edict came to mind, Jeff, when you said that example. I do think though, and a lot of companies do this, a lot of leaders do this. I think it is okay and maybe even a good thing to sit down with your employees and co-create some goals, some objectives, and talk about expectations, as long as it's a back and forth conversation.
Sure, because the more ownership people have in what those goals are, and I like what Rob said, objectives, expectations. Yeah. The more ownership people have in that, again, it's certainly not going to guarantee those results, but I think it increases the likelihood of those results.
Yeah, and sometimes things are mandated for us, whether it's work, school, relationships. And so I guess the first question you need to ask yourself is, do you want to do it? Because if you don't want to do it and you pretend to do it, you're not going to get good results. And so if you do want to do it, but it doesn't, like, the idea seems good, but you don't know how to do it, then I think the most important thing that you want to do is attach something that's personally important to you, that drives you internally, and attach it to the outcome of that. So being silly, the boss wants you to wash his or her car, and you don't really want to do it. But if you can somehow attach that particular project to something you do like, you go, oh, I'm very meticulous and I like organizing things and I like people going, ooh, ah. And if you can say, this is an expression for me to get other people to say, ooh, ah, you're much more likely to enjoy the experience of washing the car. And if you're more likely to enjoy it, you're more likely to stick to it, as opposed to, I'm doing it because I have to scrub.
Yeah, as where it feels like an obligation. So really, Sanjay, what I hear you saying, Sanjay, is that you need to really challenge yourself on the why. What is your purpose for doing that? And is it internal? And of course, I think we can all agree that if it's internally driven, you have a far greater chance of achieving it. Mm-hmm. But I want to, before I forget this, just because it's so timely, this idea of, back to Jeff's comment about edicts, objectives, expectations, goals. I don't know if there's any fans of the show The Bear out there, but I just happened to watch an episode last night from the 3rd season, and the main star of that show, the very volatile head chef at this restaurant, he wrote down a list of non-negotiables. And this created a huge kerfuffle amongst the team. And somebody referenced them as just being goals. And his head explodes, right? Because he's saying, no, these are not goals. These are non-negotiables. That's different than a goal that we're aspiring to achieve and may or may not get to. These are a list of non-negotiables in terms of how we are going to operate as a team.
Yeah, that very much resounds with what with me, because that's kind of what I was saying. A goal is something that I set and I want to achieve it, but it's not externally mandated on me or put on me by someone else. Yeah. But we're talking about, I think we're talking about, if we're talking about New Year's resolutions, and I think people make New Year's resolutions, but they don't want people to know that they made New Year's resolutions because it's become a little bit cliche or something. But I think most people do kind of at this time of year say, okay, let's make a clean break, and let me think about some things that I want to do better, do differently, something that I want to establish for myself. We can call those resolutions. But I also agree with what we're saying, that these resolutions can happen at any time of the year. They just tend to be, we kind of focus on them more at New Year's. But then the real question is, okay, if we set a goal for ourselves and nobody else has imposed this goal on us, how do we make ourselves comply with our own goal?
So if I can jump in, it's around the timing piece, which I think dovetails into your question as well. I think that a mistake that people often do, or organizations often do, is they go, starting the new year, you know, we say this at Christmas, starting the new year, I'm going to blah, I'm going to eat healthier. And then what you do is you spend the week or the 2 weeks leading up to there, and you stuff your face, and you probably do more harm than good, more harm than you're going to undo by starting to work out in the new year. And I think that when you have the idea, the motivation, the intention of doing something, you want to do it immediately and not push it off. Like and in the past, I know people that were going to stop smoking in years, but between, you know, the third week of December and New Year's, they smoked 4 times what they normally smoke, knowing they were going to quit. And then the problem is their quitting only lasted 2 weeks anyways. So my thought is, whenever you're hitting an objective, do something immediately that steps you toward it. You don't have to accomplish the goal, but if the goal is to eat healthier, then, you know, cut out a sweet that day, or drink an extra glass of water, or whatever it is. And again, more corporately, if you're going to say we have this new system going up, then maybe it's an announcement that goes out, or it's a poster on the wall. But rather than kind of going, we're going to do this in the future, and living in that future, do something immediately to move forward.
Yeah. I think the other thing, and by the way, Sanjay, we forgot your warning to everybody that you always give. And I noticed that somebody has sent a message just to us,
which is Phil. So
and maybe they just wanted us to get it.
Nice pointing him out. That's great, Sanjay.
That's how I rock and roll. So some people, they default to hosts and panelists when you send a message, and others default to everyone. So just make sure it says to everyone so that we can all hear.
We don't know why. Yeah, we don't know why. But one of the things I wanted to mention, and I challenge every one of our audience members, if you're setting goals of any kind, you also have to make them fun. And I mean, especially if you're setting them in a organization. You know, one of the goals that when I talk about customer experience, and I bet, Mike, you do the same as I do, and that is, how are you going to make your organization more curious this year? You know, what are some fun things we can do to find out what's happening in its market research? It's, you know, focusing on customer experience. So, you know, more curious means be aware when you have a great experience at a restaurant, and bring it back, and let's talk about how that happened. I've said this many times, but goals don't have to be, you know, under all serious things. And a goal could just be that we're going to have a fun meeting once a month, and a different person's going to host it, you know, something that gets people engaged. And now I got Richard's attention. Gets people engaged and want to work there. I think that I want to go back to, I'm jumping around, but to what Fritz said. One of my goals for 2025 is to help our 225 teams set their own goals. Well, I have a goal for Fritz, and that is to invite one person from each of his 225 teams to join EOW every other Wednesday, because we need more.
That'll push us over
our goals, by the way, is to increase audience numbers in 2025. So
well, and that brings up a really good point. And that is, you know, when we talk about goals, we talk about resolutions, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure many people, probably not everyone, but many people are familiar with the acronym of SMART goals, right? You guys are smart. Do you know what those SMART goals letters stand for? So so something that's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And so I've really tried to attach that to goals that I've made, because it's very easy to come up with nebulous, vague goals and then just kind of hope that they happen, and maybe they will, but if so, it's generally by coincidence. And so to say, you know, to the degree that it can it be specific? Can it be measured? And to me, that's the one that I focus on the most. Is it measurable? If so, let's measure it. Let's come up with a number, because numbers are easy to say, yeah, we hit this or we didn't. A feeling is kind of hard to know if you've hit it or not. Achievable, so you're not kind of overshooting what's possible. Relevant, and then time bound. I work great under under deadlines. And so I think just to be as specific as possible is what helps me, because otherwise I can fall off that wagon really easily.
Totally,
So,
totally.
Richard,
And I want to jump.
to lose 30 pounds by February 1st.
That would be unachievable, I think, unless you happen to have a
If I just
limb
stopped eating,
amputated or something.
I could stop
Well,
eating.
And that speaks to a couple things, right? I think two big mistakes we make, whether we're talking personal or workplace context, is to overreach, and then it just becomes an exercise in frustration, or we try to do too many. And we know so many workplaces are dealing with change fatigue, or you're trying to change 15 things this year in your business, and it's just not going to work. But I want to get back, before we go too far, sorry, Sanjay, to Jeff's really important point about making your goals fun. If you can figure out, I don't care how serious the goal is, if you can figure out how to make it fun, then you are going to be more successful. In fact, in my book, The Humor Advantage, I reference a study that talks about when people exercise together. So if you can get a cohort and turn it into a social occasion where there's lots of humor and laughter, studies show you're far more likely to succeed. In my newsletter this morning, I wrote about the idea of a way to keep your resolutions, your goals, is to create an outrageous bet with people. So I had a couple of examples, one where a senior executive team were setting some fitness goals. They were all going to measure the number of steps they were doing. And the bet that they made was whoever had the fewest number of steps after a month would have to sing a Celine Dion song in front of all of the employees. Another one where
the great French one that she did at the Olympics, that should be what they'd had to do.
Yes.
And to sing it in French.
Totally. Another one where the CEO challenged his sales team to hit a certain pretty outrageous sales quota, and told them that if they did, he would swim across the pond that was on their company property. If they didn't reach the quota, though, all the sales team would have to swim across the pond. So of course they reached their sales quota, because this was pretty fun, inspiring motivation.
And did he in fact swim across the pond?
And he did in fact swim across the pond.
You have to define across. But I worked with an organization in November that, just another example, it wasn't really a goal, but they just, somebody randomly, it wasn't management, decided to promote a non-sweat workout half an hour before work started every day. And they thought, if they get 5-10 people, they're now filling like a meeting room, a giant meeting room with people, because it just became so popular. There are so many things you can do.
So what is a non-sweat workout where you don't actually do anything?
Yeah, with your eyebrows, that's it. So I have no idea, but you're guaranteed not to sweat before work. So
I think that the key, obviously fun is helpful, but I think under the umbrella of aspirational, people have to be excited about it and have that buy-in. Yeah. I used to work for a program called Shad Valley. And by the way, if anyone on the call has a 11th or 12th grade person in their life and they want to give them a wonderful gift, this is like nerd camp, but it's the most amazing experience you can put for those kids. And I was involved with it for 12 years or something, but it's got a very STEM focus. That's science, technology, engineering, arts, math. And so one of the programs things I used to do with them up front, and I would have a decent rapport with them, and I would give them this brain teaser section. And so they had like 20 brain teasers to solve, and they had a team of like 5 people, and there was all these rules, whatever. And usually no one got it. But of the 12 years I did it, probably about 4 times out of the 12 years, one of the groups got it. So I always had this ongoing bet, which was if any group solved it, they could shave my head. Not even I would shave it, they would actually physically shave my head. Otherwise, if no one solved it, then they had to be our servants for a day, meaning they had to like carry our cafeteria trays back for all the staff. And again, it was cute. The goal, again, pushing them towards, can you solve the problems, gave them that extra little bit of motivation, but it was aspirational, and it was fun enough that they wanted to play, and it didn't feel mandated to them.
So what do you look like bald? Do you have a picture of that?
For a photo. He obviously has a photo.
Looking for a photo of that, yeah. While he's doing that, okay. Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Which one is you? Wait,
yeah, which one is you?
You're the one with the
By the
eyebrows?
way, that was me 30 years ago.
Yeah.
With the eyebrows?
There,
Wow.
30 years. See,
You haven't
Yeah,
changed.
I would know that smart ass smile anywhere. Yeah. There was another comment that was made quite a while ago in our conversation. I think it's important to bring up. This is from Jeremy when he said, "Don't do big resolutions, just small ones that add up to one big resolution." Now, Jeff and I know someone who's very fond of saying that 101% changes are just as good as 100% change. And I really think there's some truth to that. And so, yeah, rather than, some great big huge overhaul of something, if you can make a lot of little small changes, then it definitely does add up.
mathematically,
Sanjay has a question.
mathematically speaking,
Yeah.
Yes.
if you improve 1% 100 times over, assuming there's a compounding effect, it is significantly better.
Yeah.
1%.
Well, and I forget, Sanjay, you must know that I quote this often in my talks, but if you just do a 1% change, 1% better at a specific thing each day, by the end of the year, it adds up to.
I will do the math right now.
Do the math, please. Do the math.
He's loving it.
How
He's
do you not
loving
doing
it.
it in your head? I'm surprised.
Hey, so there's something else that I think is generally or universally understood to be a really good way for people to hold themselves accountable when they have told themselves that they're going to make a change or a resolution or a goal, and that is to share it with as many other people as possible so that you have others holding you accountable for you. And so you can do that in a more formal sense by having accountability buddies, by being, the four of us talking, Sanjay mentioned these four yahoos. We are a mastermind group and have been for a number of years, and we hold each other accountable for things like that. And so when you tell someone that you're going to do something, it just puts a little bit added pressure. So it can be a formal thing like that, or just putting it out there on social media, mentioning it to people, not so that you become boring and annoying about it, but mentioning it to as many people who care about you and who care about your achieving that goal can be a really powerful way to kind of keep you on track. Because depending on, if you're a people pleaser like I am, then the more people you tell about it, you're going to do it for them, even if you don't do it for yourself.
Yeah,
and you totally bang on, Richard. And I think explicitly, authentically, sincerely ask for people's support, ask for people's cheerleading.
I mean, I need your help with it.
I want you to rally behind me and have my back. I have a few clients who actually have giant and they call them different names, goal boards or even dream boards, where they encourage employees, if you want to, it's not mandatory, but if you want to put up something you are trying to work on in terms of your behavior at work or in your personal life, put it up on the board so we can all see it and get inspired by you, or maybe have ideas that can help you achieve that goal, and we can all help cheer you on and celebrate your progress, which is another hugely important part of this.
So if I can jump in, I did the math. So to the 100%, if you improve 100% all at once, you double. Whereas if you do 1% 100 times, 2.7 times. So you're doing more than, you're almost tripling. So it's significant. Actually, it's 2.7 times more increase. And then, by the way, to answer your question, Michael, 1% a day is 37.8 times over the year.
37,
so
that's the number I was
by a factor of almost 40 times. Oh. Going back to, you're talking about sharing with people on their goals, but there is another thought to that. There are people who don't share because they're afraid, they don't want to be held accountable. They're ridiculed. Where do you guys sit on that fence?
Well, what's the point of having an authentic goal that you really do want to accomplish if you then keep it to yourself so that nobody really holds you accountable?
I kind of disagree. I disagree, Richard. I think
you're often wrong about things, Jeff.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
I know. And in this case, I'm not. So because there are people who aren't going to share, and they can still achieve goals. It doesn't mean they're not going to achieve what they want to achieve.
But Sanjay said because they don't want people to hold them accountable. There might be goals that I have that would just be private. I just don't care to share them with anybody. But it's not because I don't want them to know about the goal.
Yeah, no, you're wrong.
Okay, thank you.
So, and I think that's what it is. I think it also depends on the people. Like what you share with your inner circle, you may not share with your workplace peers, which may be different what you share with your partner.
Sure.
So, I'm of the school that, yeah, sharing is helpful because it does hold you accountable. Also, the ooga booga element of me, putting it out in the universe, into the ether, I think actually helps in terms of creating currents and energy forces. And, you need something and all of a sudden the phone rings and your buddy you haven't talked to in a bunch of years calls.
Yeah, there's something. There's something there. Yeah.
Wait,
It's
Ooga Booga?
that's
Ooga
called
Booga?
math, Sanjay.
What's Ooga Booga?
Look it up. Ooga booga.
He's trying to get me
a
to roll my
mathematical
eyes
term,
because he
isn't
knows
it?
I'm not a
Let me go there for a
ooga-booga
minute.
kind
I
of guy.
happen to believe that if you put it out to the universe, things happen. So I was going to say that person who doesn't want to share their goals, they may be spiritual and putting it out to the universe, and
Yeah.
hopefully-
But I get not wanting to put it out there for sure. Like because why? Because you're embarrassed, right? You're gonna feel gonna feel like you let them down, but you let yourself down, like you're a loser because you committed to whatever this goal was, and then
Or because you had the need to make that goal in the first place. Yeah.
well,
people,
that too.
yeah.
Sure.
People might say, well, this will be seen as a weakness that I wasn't already there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So Michael, your goal of getting better looking this year, I encourage you.
I've already given up on
We're
that
going to
one.
hold you accountable.
I gave up on January 1st about 11:30 in the morning. That was time of death of that
That's a
goal.
But
personal
I
best.
see your goal is on the wall behind you. And happy birthday, Elvis, at 90. Today is Elvis's
Elvis.
90th birthday. You
Oh.
didn't even mention that in your
I didn't.
what
I
day
forgot.
it is.
Thank you, Richard. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Let's take a moment for Elvis.
And he's
I
in
thought
an
that was the
underground
guy
bunker,
from
we know this.
I thought that was the guy from the beach thing.
Yeah,
No,
Stephen
you still think
Hasselhoff.
you always think that's Hasselhoff.
This
It's-
is old
it's
news.
Elvis.
We talked about this.
Yeah, you're right.
A lot, yeah.
Okay, so
Everybody-
what about this idea of circling back? Because this is a really important point. We know from a whack of research that celebrating small steps, celebrating those small milestones. In fact, I have a book on my shelf somewhere back there all about this. Has a disproportionate impact in terms of what that actual small step represents. So I think it's important, and maybe we can talk about a few ways of doing that. To you've got to be able to measure what you're doing, then track it somehow, and then build in a couple of just small celebrations to keep your momentum going. And I think in a workplace setting, this is especially important to do, to
So when you
track
say-
it so that the team sees that there's progress, that you're actually, because nothing's more frustrating. I mean, what's more frustrating than say you set a goal to lose 10 pounds and you do
You
all
lose
this
you
stuff.
lose 15 pounds and nobody notices.
Well, or you do all this stuff for 3 weeks. You're doing everything perfectly. You go on and onto the scale, weigh yourself, and you've gained 3 pounds. And what happens? Your motivation is shot. So keeping that momentum going, I think, in a workplace context, in terms of getting people to change and commit to habits, is really important.
So I also think that small victories shouldn't be confused with insignificant, because these small wins are fundamental and important. There was a workshop I was part of years ago, and one of the exercises was they said, okay, and they told people, they said, pull up a piece of paper and write down, 5 of the Nobel laureates you can think of, and write down who won the last 5 Stanley Cups, and write down who won the last 5 Oscars for best actor or best actress. And then they did a whole bunch of these big things. And then they went through, and people basically don't remember. You may barely remember who won the World Series, going back 5 years. But then they said, okay, great.
You say my list would if I wrote something down, it would look a lot like this.
Right. And that's what most people did. But the punchline of it was, he goes, now pull out this piece of paper and write down 5 people who have made a significant impact on your life.
Yeah.
5 teachers that
That's a good point.
came across. 5 family members, 5 friends, 5 neighbors, and people have no problem doing it. And it's those are considered the small wins, but they really aren't. They're just as significant. And sometimes celebrating those, again, if we go back to the the Ooga Booga universe, I'm a big believer. The more we are grateful, the universe provides us more to be grateful for. So by recognizing those wins and celebrating them in a way that's consistent and resonating, I think that it creates more of that. So
Our resident philosopher, Jerry Gitchell, we can always count on Jerry.
Yeah.
Mike, I like your response too. So inch by inch, life is a cinch, yard by yard.
I believe Dr. Seuss is Jerry's pen name, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're almost wrapping up here. So where do we go? How do we?
Oh, we've got 11 minutes.
We
We got
got
11
a
minutes.
little time. Are you in a hurry? You got another
I am
date? You
actually.
got a
I've got
hot
another
date
On
or
meeting.
something?
Pittsburgh time.
I got
What do you-
another
what do
meeting
you-
I got to get to. So hurry
What-
up.
So here's a couple things I would offer them too. I wrote about this in my newsletter, in fact, this morning. One thing just to kind of focus people. I'm a big fan of this, and some of my clients have done this, where again, back to the workplace context and talking about culture here, where you come up with just one theme related to your business, to your customer experience, to your workplace culture, and you have everybody focus on that one theme for just 1 month. So coming up with monthly themes, you could build it out even right now for the rest of the year, and you just get everybody, okay, for this month, for the month of January, here's going to be our focus. We're all going to focus on this specific aspect of our workplace culture.
Mhm.
Well,
And
and like someone said earlier, someone said earlier in the chat, and you commented on it, Mike. I think it was Fritz, about frequently mentioned. Yeah,
Mhm.
well, sometimes we just have to keep talking about it almost ad nauseum, and convince people, we're really serious about this. This is not just some little passing something. Let's talk about it. Not to the point that, that people literally get nauseated, but let's talk about it enough so people really do see the emphasis that we're putting on whatever the goal is.
Sure, yeah, and just looking for creative ways to keep the message alive, and doing the old, simple things, simple frameworks. Like if you do a weekly team meeting or even a monthly meeting where everybody just uses the red, green, yellow system of scorecards to say, how are you progressing with your goal? Is it green? It's all systems a go. You're working towards it. Yellow, you've got some struggles, but you've got a plan to get there. And red, you're off the tracks. You need some help regrouping, getting back on track towards your goal.
I also think sharing leadership is also super helpful. So it's not always the same person kind of going, doing your goal, but having, that leadership torch pass, because different people are going to approach it different ways. Some people may say, sit down and write down your goals. People may bring in Bristol board and old magazines and go, we're making vision boards. And expressing it in as many different ways as we can. It's the idea of the old suggestion box, right? It's getting as many different angles as you can, and not just mandating it. This is the way it needs to be done, and this is the way it has to be done.
The other thing I'm a big fan of is, we're talking about habits here, right? And it comes down to those small moments. It comes down to the day-to-day habits that lead towards these goals, that leads towards the change that you want to make. So I'm a huge fan of setting daily intentions. And I know some executives who do this religiously. I know some people who've done it for decades, where they have, and very, very short, you don't want to overcommit. So 2 or 3 things that you really want to work on in terms of your habits in the workplace. Write those down as specifically as you can. And then here's the key: every single morning, these people review their list of intentions, even if it's just 2 or 3 things, and go, okay. And they sit there and just for a minute.
What's an example of that, Mike?
With their thoughts.
What's an example?
Whatever you want to work on. Maybe if you're a leader and you want to do a better job at recognizing your employees, say, I'm always so busy. I have too much on my plate. I just don't take the time to slow down and thank and appreciate my employees the way I should. So I'm going to commit to doing a better job at that. I'm going to commit to making sure I recognize 3 people a day, and commit to that. Now, the key though is they review their intention list at the end of the workday to see how they did.
Mhm.
And if you're really keen, and I know people who do this, they have a little scorecard. So they just have a very simple scorecard where they put a little check mark if they did those intentions.
And I would think that if you continue to do this, if you do it religiously, if you do it consistently and regularly, at some point you would no longer need to go back and review those intentions, because they now would become hardwired in just kind of the way you do things.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Then they move
Back
on
to resolutions and goals. You can also set goals that are incredibly easy to achieve. I think that people are afraid to set goals as well because of failure. There's that sense that if I didn't reach my goal, I failed. But if you set some goals also that are very achievable for your people or for yourself, I think that helps along the way as well. Not just short goals, but but very achievable ones as well. Not ones where you've already done it and you just check and put a check mark, but almost that easy.
I'm setting a goal to wake up every morning.
Exactly.
Let's track
By
my
the way,
progress. So
To
far, so
breathe
good.
every now and then, yeah.
By the way, I think we should do something around the table that, to guess what goals we set. I want you to guess what goal I set. Guys, I really appreciate you, and I'm so happy to be part of Every Other Wednesday. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Is it to be more grateful?
No, it's to suck up to you
To
guys.
suck up to
people?
Oh, that's
I was actually going to suggest that we probably should all share one goal / resolution that we have in our business or work life or whatever.
Yeah.
Before we do that, Richard, sorry, I
Yeah.
just want to comment on Jerry's great, or Fritz, sorry, it was
Yeah,
Fritz.
Fritz.
Fritz's great
Totally.
comment about giving
And
yourself.
we're
grace
also very
and
grateful
patience.
for Jerry.
Yes, for everybody. We're grateful for everybody. That is such an important element.
The
And,
idea of
and it
grace.
reminds me, Fritz, of I have a friend who's a dietitian consultant, and when she's working with clients, she always tells them, you got to give yourself grace and give yourself permission
Yeah.
to screw up. You are not going to be perfect. So she has this system where she's helping them plan meals. But you look at, I think she does it over the course of a week, right? So you've got 21 meals over the course of a week that you're dealing with. And she gives them X, I forget what the exact number is, but it might be even 5. She gives them 5 outs where you can go off the rails. You do not have to be perfect every single one of those 21 times because it's too much. But you get 5 outs, basically 5 strikes. And so setting up a system like that too, I think can be very helpful.
That's
But
5
yeah,
times a day?
No. Over the
Oh.
course of a week.
I
With
see.
21 meals.
That's interesting. Even extending the idea of making it measurable and specific to the number of grace points that you get in a particular day. That's good. Yeah.
And so why don't we finish up by
Yeah,
just
real
saying,
quickly.
do you have a business goal for this year? I'm going to start because mine truly is to double our attendance at EOW. So
All right. Okay.
we're gonna figure
I
out
think
how
we
to
can
do
do more
that.
than that. I think we
But
should make it
I
tenfold.
can't do it without the audience's help. So
That's right, audience. Yes.
My goal is to support Chef.
My goal in my business, seriously, my goal in my business this year is more focus, to focus on the things that I should be and not on all of the other stuff, and also more delegation.
Very good.
But I was going to finish and say my real goal in my business, I always pick a word for the year. And I really try to remind myself of that word throughout the year. My word is collaboration. I want to do a lot more collaboration, not only with you guys, but with other people in business. I think that's huge for me this year.
I'll jump into the real goal in terms of business. So as you guys know, my FedEx business wrapped up last year, and I get to focus more on speaking, which actually, today is my 30th anniversary of speaking. My first speak was January 8th, 1995.
Wow.
So, yeah, woo woo. So I've actually, it looks like I'm in almost already. No, not quite. I'm flirting with a record year. Things are looking good. I've got some good things in the hopper. So I'm hoping to make this a record year in terms of speaking and dive right back in as I've digressed from the transportation business.
Yay.
So,
Mike, I'm going to jump in because Mike, I know your goal is to stop.
We have
drinking
1 minute.
vodka on EOW.
That's right. That's correct.
You want to show it again?
Sorry?
You wanna show it again in that glass?
Show the glass? What?
You were just showing the glass there.
is it
I
half
was,
full or half
I was
empty?
toasting Sanjay's.
Is it half full or half
milestone.
empty?
And keep in
Yes.
mind, it's not even noon yet in beautiful
Yeah,
Canmore,
right.
Alberta.
Yeah.
But
Mike,
this-
what's your goal?
I have many business goals, so I'm trying to think of the one that I most
We have 30 seconds.
I most want to focus on. I want to ramp up. I want to ramp up my video production this year.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
Excellent.
thank you very much. One last one goal that I want our audience to take, not only to, as Jeff has said a couple times, bring everybody you know to join us here on Every Other Wednesday. But some of you received an erroneous email yesterday because Zoom sent an email that I didn't want it to send, inviting everybody to be a guest host, a panelist on Every Other Wednesday. part of that was actually serendipitously true because we love having guests on our show, and we would love for anybody who has something to share to be a guest host with us. Some of you have done that, but please get in touch with me, richard@contentedcows.com, and volunteer, and we'll talk.
Yes, I just want to say that just a quick count that I did because I was bored with you guys is that of our attendees today, it looks like we have 17 new names.
Oh, wow.
People I had never seen on the list before.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent.
welcome. If you're brand new, welcome. Please keep coming. We love doing what we do, and the only reason we do it is because of you guys.
That's right. That's right. You guys are the best. We really
and the money we
it.
make too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
that.
you all. Thank you. So everybody, any last in 5 seconds or less, any last thoughts? Okay, cool.
Nope.
Awesome. Thank you
So
to
next
everybody
time
who joined us
is
today.
January 22nd.
January 23rd,
22nd.
22nd.
15.
23rd is a Thursday. I know that. I have a speaking engagement on the 23rd, which is the Thursday. Okay.
What?
So wait, January 22nd.
You know what 22nd is?
You're thinking of 24.
The 22nd is Answer Your Cat's Question Day. That should be the theme.
Okay.
We would like you all to bring your cats if you have them with you, or get a neighbor's cat, and we will answer their questions.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to the next one. And Richard, where do we see? When do we see everybody again?
Well, everyone, as we've said so many times, and we'll continue to say it into this year, we'll see you every other Wednesday.
Yay.
Thanks, folks.
Bye
Happy New
all.
Year.
Thanks.
Happy
Bye.
Thank you
New
for
Year.
being here.